and welcome to episode 541 of the GodIsAGeek.com podcast. My name's Adam Cook, and I'm joined by, if you're watching in video, beneath me here, Mick Fraser and Lyle Carr. Hello, chaps. How are you?
Hello, mate. Right.
Hi, we got introduced together, so we can't say anything too enthusiastic in case we cut the other off.
It's on me, not on you. I'm getting lazy, right? Because the thing is, although we don't do this live anymore, the video version, when I introduce you, it's like the hardest bit to do while being the host because you have to keep cutting between. It's easy. It's an easy thing to do when you're not hosting or speaking. You can just click. But yeah, it's just me. I thought I'd just try it. I'll try it out. I'll just try it out. The kind of, how is everyone? Everyone's good.
Cold. It's so cold.
Well, yeah, it is cold.
I'm wearing a hoodie indoors, and that doesn't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was under a blanket for the large part of today. I'm getting old. I think that's what the truth of the matter is. Last episode, we talked about how we were playing lots of things. It was just Lyle and I, and we mentioned how we were playing lots of things, and we couldn't talk about them. And I'm here to tell you, listeners, watchers, that hasn't changed.
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same as last week.
It hasn't changed. We've got a couple of indies to talk about. On one I'm not sure if it's an indie, and of course we're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered and the No Return mode. But we thought we'd start talking off with an indie. Start by talking about how to speak. That was if you've never seen a man have a stroke on a podcast, you have now. And not like that. Turnip Boy robs a bank, Lyle.
Yes, he does.
He does. Now, I want to start, actually, with a little bit of history, is that I did know about this game, okay, because it had a game that came before it called, I believe, Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion?
That's the name, yep.
Okay.
Lock him up.
Yeah, no, this Turnip Boy seems like a bit of a wrong un, to be honest with you. Now, I'm very guilty of us not covering that because the game name was as such one of those you get where you're not sure if it's a real game. And
yeah, or if you just don't think it's going to be something that's really it's like when Shower with Your Dad Simulator came out. Yeah. One of those where you're like, this just seems like it might be a bit of a piss take, and sure, it might be a nice joke, but you just can't.
Honestly, part of me thought it was some sort of thing designed to it was like a fishing experiment or something. Do you know what I mean? With a P and a H, but it's not. And Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is, well, Lyle, you reviewed it. You tell me what it is.
So, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank it's like a twin stick sort of. I usually try to avoid the term rogue-lite because I think it's kind of hard to distinguish between roguelike and rogue-lite.
I looked this up the other day, so I'm really well versed on what the difference is. And
good.
I actually genuinely was like, I need to. I keep.
I've
seeing
looked it up
this.
loads, and I can never remember.
I can tell you, but I'm going to let Lyle finish, and then I'll tell you.
Yeah, so I usually just avoid them. I usually just say roguelike, and I'm like, sure, whatever. Like, people can read that as being either one of those things. But in this case, I really wanted to use the term roguelite because it's sort of the lightest of roguelites that ever did roguelite. That's a sentence to say.
It's pretty well done, actually. Fair play to you.
Thanks. So you've took a lot of effort, a lot of concentration. I can't promise that for the rest of the podcast. But yeah, it's a game where the aim is to steal as much money as you can from a bank as a turnip character. And each sort of time you go to the bank, you have a countdown timer of 3 minutes, I think, at like a base level. You might upgrade that later on. But yeah, to start with, it's 3 minutes, and you've got to try and get as much money out of this bank as possible in that time. So there'll be guards that you'll need to sort of shoot. You get a variety of silly different weapons that you can use, from like melee stuff to ranged weapons and all the sorts of weapons you would imagine in this situation. And you can do I think it's like a dodge roll, but I believe it's actually Turnip Boy falling over is the dodge roll. So, but he negates damage as he does it, so you can do that to roll through laser grids and dodge ridiculous amounts of gunfire that might happen at bosses. And it's just it's a really nice, easygoing, one of those games. It very much has the thing of each time you do your run, you're rushing around to get your money. If you do run out of time, it just means that enemies start spawning in, but you'll probably be fine at getting back. And once you get back with your loot, you can use that money to either buy sort of permanent upgrades that will help you explore more of the bank. So you could buy like C4 to blow up vault doors, or you could buy a pick to start chipping away at statues, and then you can collect like the bits of like gold from these golden statues, so it gets you more money. Or you can spend it on like permanent upgrades, like you can take more damage, or you do more damage with guns, or you have a bigger swag bag so that you can carry more money as you get back. And it's just like it is a really, really well done game where every little loop you go on, it's really fun. You know what you're doing, and you get that constant feeling of like getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and unlocking, more weapons and more interesting things. And it's just like it's a lovely game. It's a hard one to sort of talk about for hours and hours because it's quite a simple concept, but it's really charming and really well made.
So, some of it as well is like not alien to us as much, but there is actually lore. Like, there are characters that talk to you about the previous games. Like, was it in your review? I think you mentioned about how you apparently killed a god. And yes, I don't know if that's actually a joke or if you really did.
It's mentioned a couple of times, so I kind of assume. Yeah. And then towards the end of the game, you experience things that maybe make you think that sort of thing might be what happens in the Turnip Boy universe.
The Turnip verse.
The Turnip verse.
Yes, please, yes. I do think that like a lot of it is quite an internet-y game. If that makes sense,
yeah,
like it's quite memey. Like, well, is it? I don't know, but like the characters, like Turnip Boy is a turnip. Like there are vegetables, there are all sorts of vegetables. There's one that's like a macaroni piece, isn't there? And and it's kind of quite a nice, not a palate cleanser, but like when you think about the sort of cycle of a new year starting up, which is what we're all in, it's quite a nice one. It's quite an easy to play one, isn't it? It's just it's not. I haven't played as much as you. I mean, does it get really difficult ever? It didn't feel like it.
The boss fights later on get difficult enough that like I died a couple of times on earlier runs, but I was never at the point where I was like, well, if I go and do this again, I never thought, well, I better go do this again and bang my head against a wall. It was like, okay, well, I'll go get a bit of money and I'll upgrade my gun damage and it'll probably make it easier, so it's fine. No, it's not. It's not a particularly hard game. It's not even particularly long either. Like I think I'd like basically finished everything within like maybe 4 hours. It's been a while since I played it, but it was something like that. It wasn't a huge amount of time. And it's just like it's got a lot of little things that make it, a little bit more charming, a little bit more special as well. Like there's little side missions that you do for characters, and there's usually sort of like funny reasons you're doing them. Like there's an artist who wants paying by a influencer who wanted them to be painted, so you have to go and find them in like the sort of randomized hallways, and eventually, you'll just happen to find them as you're on if you go in like a lift to a different floor, and you'll talk to them. They're usually quite fetch questy, really, but like, and then in doing that, that influencer hands you a big pile of exposure books for you to give back to the artist. And it's just like it's they know what they're doing.
It is
the right sort
some of that's kind of dated in a way, that humor. That's kind of quite an old joke, it feels like to me now. The sort of paid and exposure thing. It's sort of, I don't know, because I just it's just really likable. I think like 100%. I was thinking about. I was playing a bit today just to get some footage for the podcast, and I realised I hadn't done this early quest where you get given like a red crayon and you have to deface the art, and it's kind of just nice. Like I also quite liked. Like, I was quite surprised. So the first boss you fight. Is he chips or a potato or something?
He's I think he is either chips or a potato, something like that, like a sheriff who's a potato.
Yeah, something like that. Now I did him first time. I didn't think it was a particularly difficult fight, but then it shouldn't be the first one. But then when I went back the second time, I expected to have to fight him again, and you didn't. And is that just him, or are all the bosses once you beat them?
That's all the bosses.
That's great. I like that.
Initially, yeah.
I kind of like that. That's if you think about a Dead Cells or something, like you have to fight the bosses over and over again, and you get so good at them, to the point where some of them are inconsequential. But like I don't know. I mean, do we know if this is like a really? I mean, it must be popular enough. It got a sequel, but is it like?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's just it. It definitely did well enough to have to have another one, and we have covered it now that the first one's done well, so hopefully more and more people.
I assume the first one is the same, right? It's just
I think so. Yeah, as far as
Just
I
a
could tell
different
from looking
setting.
it up. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
no.
just it's really nice to play one of these games where it's not like you're going to be getting the shit beaten out of you over and over again, because that's what happens in this sort of game normally. And a lot of the time as well, it'll maybe be a setting that's a bit sort of dark and grim and bloody or something like that. And this is just like, you don't get light-hearted, not that difficult roguelike games, and the fact that exists is really nice, and it's in such a charming package that on the whole it just works really well. The palate cleanser statement is exactly what it felt like to me. It was just like, between other games, getting to just have this little joyous experience that didn't ask too much of me. It was very familiar in terms of, like, if you've played a sort of twin stick roguelike game before, you'll immediately know what everything is. And yeah, the upgrades are just really nice. It was just a lovely game, a really nice sort of surprise. And we didn't really know much about the series until now.
Before we move on to the next game, there's a couple of things we should clear up. One is, yes, I'll explain the roguelike thing. But also, for those who only listen to this podcast, the audio version, I do think it needs calling out how amazing Mick Fraser is, because I'm pretty sure behind him I saw a pizza enter the room. Now, I don't know if
there's dinner going on.
Yeah, like, I don't know if he couldn't see it because he's facing the camera, but I saw that pizza and I just thought, this man is my hero.
Yeah,
well done.
There's a lot of dinner going on behind me.
That was like, he didn't even...
He didn't drift off or try and grab a slice.
So impressive. Yeah. Although I will say it was bad for me because I'm trying to lose weight. And I literally was sat there thinking I could just text the kids and say, bollocks, order a pizza, but I won't. Roguelike.
You're going to hear my belly rumbling at some point.
Yeah, you probably will. Apparently, a roguelite is when progression carries over. And a roguelike is when, once you die, basically you start a game as if it was your first time playing it, apparently.
That makes sense.
I don't think any of them are very much like Rogue anymore, are they?
Definitely not.
I always just wait for someone to correct me on YouTube. That's just the easiest way.
Yeah, that's the quickest way.
I can guarantee whichever one I say, someone will come on and go, actually, there's not a roguelike, it's a roguelite, and this is why.
Yeah, but if you say hello on YouTube, someone will correct you. So it's welcome to Paradize on YouTube.
Welcome to Paradize.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't. I've seen bits of this game, Mick. You played it. You previewed it. Not like it's not a massive build of what you've played. I believe it was I think it was 2 hours. I guess repeatable. But it took us both by surprise. One, because neither of us quite realised what it was linked to. Welcome to Paradize, Mick. What is it? Tell us all about it.
So it's I thought it was. At first glance, before I looked into it, I just assumed it was a spiritual successor to How to Survive. I don't know if many people remember How to Survive. Came out in 2013. There was a sequel, then there was like a special edition. And basically, it's like an isometric zombie survival game.
I remember a lot of yellow.
Yellow is all I remember.
It had a yellow logo, and like the How to Survive thing. They're a paid survival guide that you find through the game, the How to Survive guide, and they've got yellow covers with little cartoons on and things like that. And it turns out it's not I don't know if it's a spiritual success. I'm still not entirely sure, but it's by the same people and it's very, very similar. But it doesn't feel like a sequel, although it probably could carry on in a way. But yeah, it's an isometric zombie survival game. But in the How to Survive games, the trick was they were about crafting. They were about finding resources. You craft your armor out of like welding masks and American football gear or whatever you find lying around with spikes on it, and you'd make your own weapons and it was kind of like an RPG. It was like a lot, not a Diablo like, but there was a lot of loot and there was a lot of bits and pieces to find, and you'd go around and do quests and side quests for NPCs and things like that. So this is very similar to that. So Welcome to Paradize, which I really hate the title because it's a sort of title that unless you see it written, it doesn't, because it's like Welcome to Paradise Z, capital Z instead of an S. And the Paradize in it is like an organization that have found a way to enslave the zombies. So everyone's been living in a zombie apocalypse for so long that, a certain amount of people, like the rich and privileged, have fucked off to outer space. I think that's what I got from the beginning.
So the title is based on lore. Like, there's a company called because to me it was like,
and
oh, stop this sort of.
no, they hadn't. It is lore. Yeah, and so basically the people who are left on Earth. The people who are left on Earth are just the survivors. Okay. But like I said, this company's found a way to enslave zombies with special headsets. So you put a headset on a zombie and then you can control it.
Is it some sort of meta culture about commentary about VR or phones?
I don't know, honestly. This seems like the sort of game that if it didn't be able to do it subtly, so like nothing subtle about this game. So for example, like I don't know where the zombies come from in this world anymore, but in the game world you find these things called pylons, and they're a big pole flashing. There's a tube in the ground, and periodically the tube will just fire out a zombie. So and each of these pylons has a different kind of zombie. And the thing that makes them different is that will be wearing something unique. So there are zombies that have like armor with massive spikes. And I don't mean like little spikes. I mean, they're actually wearing like 4-foot stakes on their armor and running around. There are zombies that have saddles on. There are zombies that pop out that have targets on them and things like that. And then the more of these zombies you kill and loot, you build a percentage bar of everything you loot, and eventually when you've looted enough you can craft it. So rather than, it's kind of like learning the blueprint by picking up the loot, and then once you've crafted it you can put it on your own zombie. So like the first thing you have to do is find a broken helmet and craft a helmet that works, and then beat a zombie to its knees basically and put a helmet on it, and then it becomes your zombie. Now, as I said, all these things that you find lying around that you pick up and you can eventually craft. So they're pretty self-explanatory. For example, if you craft the target and put it on your zombie, it makes all the other zombies attack your zombie instead of you. If you put the spiky armor on, then it has like a Diablo Thorns effect where it does damage to the attackers. If you put a saddle on it, you can use it as a mount and literally jump on it, and it will piggyback you around faster than you can walk. It's
humans, like zombies that are human zombie,
yes,
like not dog zombies
normal,
or
they're normal
zombies.
Yeah. It's just a very, and I tell you what it was. It's such a silly game.
Well, yeah, I'm getting that from the fact you can ride. You can ride. I mean, they could have made a horse zombie. Like,
well, they could have done anything they want, but no, you literally can piggyback the zombie, and then you can attack from its back. And
piggyback it.
You piggyback it.
Sorry,
yeah.
So it doesn't go on all. I'm picturing a zombie that's gone on all fours.
No.
And
it piggybacks you.
Right.
And you can run around and.
Sorry, for some reason I don't know why that makes less sense or more. I don't understand.
But I think I wasn't expecting it to be as much like it's really like it's very, very janky. Like the How to Survive games are very janky to the point where.
But is that because it's a preview build, or is it because it's?
I don't think it is. I think it's just how they. And this is Eco Software aren't necessarily known. I mean, they're not a big developer, but they've done a lot of stuff that people probably wouldn't realize they do. Like they're the ones who do the main rugby games, like when there's like a yearly rugby game. That's Eco Software. They did Warhammer Chaos Bane, which was like a pretty good Diablo alike that was, I think, is still being played by people. They've had some good stuff, but the How to Survive games in particular were incredibly creaky. And this feels very similar to that.
I vaguely remember there was one other thing I remember apart from the yellow is I want to say that it was going up against State of Decay when it first.
It did, yeah. 2013, it was a big zombie year. It was the State of Decay. Well, we had I put it in the preview because I was. It was like Walking Dead was in like season 2 or 3, so that was like at the height of its, popularity.
Was zombie season.
Yeah, and then I think World War Z was out that year, and like you said, State of Decay hit the Xbox around the same time or just before. So it was a big, I think that's what carried it a little bit because people were quite in it with Zombie Mania, and I think they were quite culty hits as well. Like people liked them because they were janky and they were silly and they didn't take themselves too seriously. And this, I don't know whether this might veer a little bit too far into we're deliberately not taking ourselves seriously. Like when you see
but
the
man,
full game.
I'm here for that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and I kind
Like,
of
I'm a
am.
bit
And I think
tired
that's
of the
why.
real world being so
Yeah, I think
horrible.
that's why I really liked it, because I was just like, Jesus, this is fun. Like, there's loot everywhere. You know what I'm like with looter
Well,
games
I know, I
anyway. But
understand yeah.
there's loot fountains out of everything, and there's you seem to have an infinite inventory, so you just hoover up all the loot and then dismantle it and make. And then, like, when you find a crafting node, it just spawns. Like, you'll find it says find the wood, the whatever it is, the wood node, and you find it, and wood just spontaneously appears. There's no, like, you don't have to hack a tree down or anything. Like, you just stand still and it spawns wood, and then you can craft.
You're riding zombies around in piggyback. Like, I'm not sure that realism can
exactly
be,
no, it really doesn't factor at all. I mean, and you've got fast travel points that you need to activate, and they're everywhere. Like I said, there's NPCs that have built little forts, or they're holed up in these areas where they've got their own zombies protecting them, and you can build your own zombie. So you can build a base, and like you can have, like, you've got a workbench and a crafting area and all this stuff, and then you can build a generator that powers everything. You can build your own pylon that spawns your own zombies that will defend your base from other zombies.
Of course.
And I think I don't know if it's multiplayer. I don't actually know that, because the build I played was quite a short chunk. So I presume in this day and age, and with this sort of game, that there may well be a multiplayer element. I'm not 100% sure, so I need to fact check that. But it's just mental. And it was just really fun. And like, I had a couple of bits where, like, my character just warped through the screen, and that was then I had to sort of restart and reload and come back in, and like, there's no character creation. You just pick a survivor from like a load of pre-made characters, and they don't have different stats or anything like that. It's really not that deep. It's just a survival crafting game.
I can say,
really,
by the way,
fun.
I've just had a quick look on the Steam webpage. I was more curious about when it was out, because we mentioned about the sort of jank and that. It was out at the end of February.
I think it's February, yeah.
29th, apparently, 5 weeks. So according to Steam, so I'm not 100% always accurate, but I would think accurate. Single player, online PvP, online co-op, shared or split screen PvP, and shared or split screen co-op. So it sounds like the works.
Yeah.
I could see this being a good game.
Were multiplayer.
They were, yeah. I could see it being a good, fun kind of. You know how people used to play MMOs, and it would be like they were just playing them just to chat to their mates while doing.
Yeah,
I could see these sort of games replacing that. I could imagine it's a podcast game.
Yeah, it was refreshingly quite easy. Like I didn't die for the entire time I was playing, and like, there were a couple of times, because you have skill. It's like a skill tree for you and the zombie, and you can set its behavior so that it'll revive you if you get downed, or it'll heal you, like it'll come and bandage you, or you can set it to be aggressive or docile or defensive, or it's not a difficult game. So I think they've really kind of just gone all out in making something that's fun, which is good.
After you've explained it now, because the artwork to this game is a bit weird, but now I actually get it. It's a zombie basically with the helmet thing on that controls, and he's bringing like a can of beer, a bottle of beer, and the hot dogs, which have got dynamite in them. It also, by the way, I didn't know this was coming to consoles, and it's on Amazon right now for $34.99 on PS5. So it is a budget release as well, by the sounds of it. I didn't check the Steam price, but
I just think it's fun. I think it's going to be one of those games that I'll play for quite a while, after it comes out, and it looks like the sort of thing that I'll have a little bit of fun with, and I think that's nice sometimes, because we're sort of we are at that point in the year where we're on the cusp of, like, we're waiting for everything to sort of suddenly, because everything at the moment is, that's out at the end of January, or that's out at the end of February. Everything's sort of coming, and it's going to be this is a sort of game that could maybe get swallowed in that when it starts at the end of, like, the back end of February.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, but it's being released on the same day as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So
yes, you know what I mean. So I think they have put themselves up against it. But it's good. It's good fun. I quite enjoyed what I played of it. I'm looking forward to playing some more.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. And we will move on to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. And yes, we will acknowledge that I haven't played it. I haven't played the whole game again. I've played all the bits that matter and some of the main game. It should be called Director's Cut or Definitive Edition. I've no problem saying that. Like it's. I think a lot of people have got a problem with this because it's called Remastered, and it's like that game looked good already. And obviously it loads quicker. They've added DualSense stuff. One of the biggest things they've added is the no return mode, which is a rogue-lite. Okay, and it's really weird. Chris White mentioned this in his review, and he's spot on, right? It's really odd because kind of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla has come along and eaten its lunch a little bit, because that's a free roguelite mode, like, and you just download it as free DLC, and it's great. And I finished that over the break. I forgot to mention that, and I still am blown away by how much story they added to that. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered No Return mode is really good. Like, it's a really good roguelite mode. It does highlight, like, I think people think of The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2 as these massively story-heavy games, which of course they are. But they are mechanically good, especially the second one. Like, they improved on a lot, and mechanically they are fun, sort of realistic shooters in that respect.
It's the mechanics that got me in the
well,
second
there you go.
game, because I didn't like. I mean, I've said before, I didn't like the second game, but I like. I mean, you can't fault how well they're made.
Yeah,
both of them, and the second one in particular.
No, so the roguelite mode is really interesting, because what they do is you start off and you can... I mean, look, if you have somehow avoided the fact that there are any spoilers for this game whatsoever to this point, fair play to you, but I'm going to have to mention there are 2 playable characters. And in the roguelite mode, you start off... And this is even if you've completed the game, because I'd imported my save. So you start off, you can pick Abby or you can pick Ellie. And then by doing a couple of runs as Ellie, you'll unlock Dina. Or and so on. So you kind of are. It's like factions, I guess. Like it's whatever way you want to look at them, the goodies and the baddies. I know the game doesn't really do that, but you know what I mean. It's you know, like if you play enough on the sort of Abby side of things, you will unlock like Lev and so forth. And if you play enough of Ellie's stuff as her and Dina, and each one you unlock. You know, Joel on that eventually, you know, so you're unlocking them. There are also like all these mods, all these mutators, I suppose they would call them. And you start out in like a little safe room. And it's even nice because even the safe room is different because it's related to their story. So Ellie's is like a shack, and Abby's is like this sort of all Christmas decorated LED thing. Like I think it might be the stadium from the game. I'm not sure. And in there you've got... where you get your rewards for each level. You've got a gun cabinet that randomizes, and you can buy things with currency. You've got a workbench to upgrade your guns, the same as in the game, and you can just bring up your crafting menu. And you know the supplements you get in the game that upgrade him. You get them from doing levels. Then you go to the level board, and it's like there's one to start off with, and they branch out across to what eventually culminates in a boss battle against one of the bosses from the main game. But each of the branches on the way have got different modes within them. So like Hunted is basically you're in a level for 2 minutes and they're just going to throw everything at you, survive. So you could just run around if you think you can survive that way. It's not going to work eventually because it's going to get difficult. Another one will be like, you know, survival, or not survival, sorry, forget the name of it. You have to hunt down like waves of enemies. And again, how you do that is up to you. Same as in the game. You can do it stealthily, you can go guns blazing. There will be levels where you get given a member of like the group. Like you will get a level where you're playing as Ellie and suddenly Dina's there for that level and she'll help you out with shooting people and stuff. So it's like they vary it up every single level, and it's really more-ish. It's really, really well done. It would be one of those things, I think, where people would be talking about it as this incredible mode if Valhalla hadn't come along a month ago and sort of done very similar but not the same.
They must have been so annoyed about that.
Weird. But it's weird. What's weirding me out a bit is that I remember a lot of people at the time, I think myself included, saying I would have happily paid a tenner for that Valhalla mode. Mm-hmm. And now people are complaining about the price of this one.
You can get the Valhalla one for free, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really good mode, really, really good fun. It has daily challenges and stuff, and there's all these alternate ways of playing it, and it's really, really entertaining. The lost levels, I'm a bit torn on because I think it's nice to get them. Like, it's nice to get a little bit of, like, extra content, and
Yeah.
you can watch them with director's commentary, or you can watch them with like an introduction as well. Like Neil Druckmann sat in what looks like a cinema, and he talks about what it is, why it was cut. Like one of the main ones is like a little short sewer section, and he says basically it was cut for pacing, which is going to drive people wild. You already think the pacing's off, which is I thought that might be deliberate. And some of them are more complete than others. Like that one actually felt like they could have just. It was near enough there. Like there's a few assets you can tell they didn't quite finish. There's one at a carnival kind of fair thing back in Jackson, which is missing sound effects and quite a bit. Like it's, you can. It's fine. It adds a little bit of color to the overall story and stuff. And there's one hunting an animal, which is technically it's not optimized at all. It's like a really low frame rate one. They're nice. They're quite short, and they're nice that they're there, I guess. I can't tell people if the value is there for them or not. I really enjoyed having a reason to sort of have another look at this game because I love this game and I like the no return mode and I liked a lot of it. The remaster moniker is going to put people off because it doesn't feel remastered. It does and it doesn't. Like it does look amazing. It does load quicker. It doesn't load as quick as a Spider-Man or the very best examples. It's just still a fantastic game. What I would say is if you've never played it before, this is the version. Like this is, there's a lot of haptics and stuff, but they're like, it's done quite sparingly. Like they don't hammer you over the head with the haptics thing. It's like you'll just notice them now and again, little bits. Like it's really well done. It doesn't feel But I really like it. I can see the score Chris gave it because it's still an amazing game. They've just added more to it. It is what it is. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. There you go. Lovely game. Talked about it a bit.
Badly named.
But like I say, I would have called it Definitive Edition, I think. Because Director's Cut is weird because they've still, technically, the content is still cut. It's just an optional, it's like a DVD extra.
Yeah.
You can play it, but it's not incorporated into the game at all. It's a separate thing. Director's Cut wouldn't quite feel right, I guess. But yeah, there we go. And on that note, it's time for some listener correspondence.
Listener correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde.
Well, we've got quite a bit here to get through, so let's waste no time. McPoo from Discord says, what's your hottest take? Doesn't have to be gaming related, just the take that will make everyone look at you like you're mad.
I feel like this is him trying to find a way to get someone on the podcast to admit that they think the Earth's flat or something. Like I think he's full on fishing for flat Earthers here.
Let's try and keep it gaming then. I mean, we're a gaming podcast, so let's try and keep it to a game. It's difficult for you, I know, because we did a whole Patreon podcast about one of yours.
We did.
Can you give us another? That's the thing.
I probably can, but I think most of them are fairly well known at this point. Really. Okay. One of them you agree with, so I've got a few though. But yeah, the famous one, the one that people know, famous. That's funny, isn't it? Is that I think The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is like a 6.5 out of 10. I don't like it very much. It did things to Zelda I didn't like at all. But there's a whole Patreon exclusive podcast with like 10 episodes or something stupid you can listen to about that. Other ones are kind of related to this podcast in that I think that The Last of Us, the original The Last of Us, is like a really tedious game that I don't enjoy at all. Could say the same for Red Dead Redemption 2, the slowest and dullest game that I can think of ever not wanting to play.
That one's pretty hot. That's a pretty hot
that's a tasty one, yeah. And then the one you would agree with is that I don't really understand the appeal of Metal Gear Solid 3 at all. I just can't. I've tried to force myself to play that game so many times as someone who has enjoyed the first, the second, the fourth.
I don't understand the appeal of Metal Gear Solid, period.
Oh, wow.
Well, that can be yours.
Okay, well, the thing is I had prepared mine, and it was going to be that I'm not
at all, though.
Wow, I don't. Mine was going to be Metal Gear Solid 3, and you've both Well, Mick's totally one-upped anything I could have said that. Shit. I tell you what, I think we're gonna have to do another question, and I'll keep trying to think of something that I'm. So it's from McPoo again. What are your favourite hot dog toppings?
This is a tough one because I think I'm quite sort of traditional with a hot dog in that I think some onion, some ketchup, and some mustard is pretty much as good as it gets for me personally. Like, you know, it's just the right amount of loaded of things that are nice. Keeps that traditional hot dog flavour. I would never turn
I
down.
like a bit of cheese.
Well, the eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that Mick has vanished. We've had technical problems, and it's nothing to do with his tastes on Metal Gear Solid. So we're going to get back to the questions. And the favourite hot dog toppings, I would just do mustard and ketchup, I think. I went a long time just being a ketchup man and being averse to flavour, but now I tell you what, actually, I know that the topic of hot dogs on God is a Geek in terms of podcasts we've done over the years is a hot one. I fucking love a hot dog.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
They really are. There's something about how easy they are to consume.
Yeah.
And like you say, you can just... I mean, let's face it, calling something a chili dog when all you've done is taken a hot dog and just thrown chili on it. Like, there's not many foods you can just go,
Yeah.
I'm going to just add another meal to it. And it's great.
And yeah, there's so little to complain about with hot dogs. It's a very easy food. It's easy to make. It's easy to eat. Most things you put on it will probably be nice.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm going to ask you a question about sort of adjacent question. I think one of our favourite things we do every year is when it gets to the cold period and the markets and that open up, is we go and have currywurst.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people serve it and it's just in a pot with your sausage and the currywurst sauce and a bit of dusting. Some people serve currywurst as a hot dog. What do we think of that?
I think I've only had it as a hot dog.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't know why I asked, because I wouldn't turn it down anyway. Like, I asked it as if it was going to be some sort of divisive argument.
No!
Like, now I think about it, I would prefer it just as it was, but I'm still going to eat that. In fact, I have eaten that at home.
It was really nice, I have to say. And as a thing, again, a really great way to have a hot dog hot dog equivalent food. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for it. And, you know, perfect summer food, so not really appropriate for right now. But I wouldn't turn it down.
No, same. Right, Steve says, what's your most vivid gaming memory of all time? Could be a moment of unbridled rage, startled surprise, or pure joy that will stay with you forever.
That's such a big question. That's something where it's like, what can I think about that answers that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are these big moments? And, like, you've got to remember far back for a lot of these, I feel like.
I think I can pull one.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to translate well to a podcast, but it's one I will never forget, because it's a rare moment of, I don't want to say cruelty, but it's a rare moment of me genuinely laughing out loud at someone else's misfortune. And it was playing Worms. Remember the game Worms?
Good old Worms, yeah. Team 17 and all that.
And I was playing with a friend who wasn't, shall we say, versed in gaming very well. Like, he didn't play games. And we were all there, and I was showing off. I was very young, by the way. I was showing off in front of mates.
Showing off with
other mates. Showing off with Worms. And he said he didn't know what to do now. And I said, what you should do is press jump twice, because you do this cool jump. Right, which is true. It
is true. That's not a lie.
It's a backflip, if I recall, and you go back and you go backwards a bit, which he did, and landed on the mine that was there. And I laughed so hard I thought I was going to shit myself. It was that vivid a memory. I've never laughed at a game so much since, and I can still sort of see it in my bedroom as a kid at home, and saying, "Oh yeah, just double jump," and him doing it, like, so trusting. And like, I don't know if that was a lesson I learned to never abuse that trust in the future as a person, but it's a very vivid memory. And on the same count, I remember a friend of mine getting really frustrated at a game, and it was a PlayStation. I think it would have been the original PlayStation, so wired controller, and it was mine, but I didn't care because it was so funny. He got so pissed off, he just went whoop, and threw the controller up in the air, and somehow it landed perfectly in the bin. Like, and it was just like, he didn't mean it. It just did it, and it was like, those are my There's some vivid
Nice.
memories.
Okay, that's good. You've covered some nice bases there. I'll cover the other bases. I think
Okay.
I've got a pure joy, and I've got a pure emotion. In the pure emotion is, and I don't even necessarily remember what the moment in it was, but it was teenage Lyle who had more emotions than adult Lyle, as all teenagers unfortunately have to deal with. And at some point, to the ending of Kingdom Hearts, I definitely did a cry. So I'm saying that was I will always remember that as being like that was me crying at a video game, and that hadn't happened before, and it doesn't really happen very often anyway. I can't recall many others, but I always have that as a memory of like I remember crying at that video game, and that's quite a that's a significant moment playing video games.
That's a vivid one.
Yeah, and my pure joy is in Sea of Thieves. There used to be, I think it's gone now, a sort of like an arena mode where you'd have like 5 different teams all like controlling like a big pirate ship, as Sea of Thieves does, and the whole point of it is that you have to dig up these treasure chests and take them to like this base ship, and you score points for it. And we were playing with some friends online, me and my partner, and we were getting absolutely battered by all these people who were like 100% better than us. Like we were getting completely beaten, and there was only like, and we were like certain we were going to lose. And I had this genius idea in this heat of the moment on this island that was sort of like a big archway that I could get one of the chests, and very quickly said to everyone else, quick, steer the ship under this archway. And I had one of the chests and just did the biggest fucking jump onto the ship, broke my legs and my character died, but the treasure chest just remained there. And we won this game just by this like this moment where like it was never something we'd strategized about. It was just like I had this one quick thought of like, this could work. This might be how we're able to salvage this. And it was just this moment where I remember jumping through the air and literally just screaming down the mic like, yeah, we got it, and like a full-on fist pumping. And like, I didn't really even care about winning, but it just felt fucking awesome.
It was right at the time, yeah. No, that's good. I love those moments. I'm trying to think of them, something like that as well, but I don't think I need to. You've covered that. Mick's got a couple of questions. He sent some that I'll ask, I think, when the pod's more fuller. But for now, we'll stick with, do you still play Ring Fit, and why do you think they never did DLC for it? The answer to that for me is no. I'm guessing.
I never played Ring Fit, so still no, I guess.
I don't think they did DLC for it because, like, if I remember correctly, for a while that was hard to get hold of. That thing sold out everywhere. So, and that doesn't happen these days. It's not, it's not like when we were growing up and it's like, oh, well, if you didn't get that toy in November, you ain't getting it for Christmas because it's sold out. So I don't think they probably needed to. It just sold enough that, and I bet it still does. Like I was thinking, I went in the CEX and I don't remember seeing one. I felt like I would have spotted it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'd have got it. I could name other things. Like I saw iPads galore. I saw, older consoles that I was like, ooh, an older console. But I'm pretty sure if I'd seen a Ring Fit. I mean, I'm not saying they're not. You can't get them. I'm sure you can now, but.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that being the case. I remember there were like different waves of it doing that as well. I remember during like sort of like pandemic times, it being something that people were really desperate to get a hold of as like a fun way to do a bit of exercise when it was kind of hard to do stuff like that. But yeah, it was one of those games that just felt like it did ridiculously well and everyone always wanted. So that's probably a good reason.
His next question is like, it is dripping with snark.
Okay.
So I will try and read it without just like stop it. I would just read it, I think, because I don't. Nintendo's lineup is a bit confusing this year with that random Mario vs. DK game that only McPoo would buy, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door remaster, Luigi's Mansion 2 remaster, and another Code remake. Barring Metroid Prime, I just want to know, I am going to have to be clear, these are not my words.
Yes.
I'm reading a listener's question. Barring Metroid Prime 4, which will probably release with Elder Scrolls 6, what do you think Nintendo could do to fill the gaps?
Okay, yeah. So that not all your opinions there.
None of that is my opinion.
Okay. I mean, I think Nintendo have quite a usual level of us not knowing what they're going to do this year, really, in that they'll do a direct like they do, and it'll tell us those gaps will get filled pretty quickly with all sorts of exciting things, and things might appear unexpectedly soon. They like to do the whole thing where it's like, and it'll be out in a few weeks, and it's something you were really excited. I mean, last year they did Metroid Prime Remastered, and it's out now, didn't they? So
yeah, they did. Yeah, they could do that with 2.
They could do that with 2. That'd be awesome, actually. I like 2.
I get it. I get it. Like, these are remakes, and they're I get it. But like, I think that just means you need to read between the lines a little bit about what's coming down the pike. And like, when you put it in sort of brass tacks as he has by listing them off, you do sort of go, might be the year.
It might be the year. It does feel like, I know people have said it might be the year a few years at this point, but this year is feeling the most.
It feels the year to me.
For a successor to the Switch.
It does. It feels the year to me. We haven't had a 3D Mario since
the
Odyssey.
launch. Yeah.
It would be very, very sensible to launch a new console with a new Mario 3D game, a re-up like they did with Zelda, so a Breath of the Wild. Sorry, it's not called that. Is it Tears of the Kingdom, or a collection, like the 2 of them as a product. We haven't had a new Mario Kart for there's definitely things that Nintendo haven't done.
Yeah,
F-Zero,
and there's a reason they haven't done them.
F-Zero, Kirby's always gonna be around. Smash, when you think about it, I'm not saying I think that they'll announce a new Smash. Nintendo does what Nintendo does. Like you said, there will be a direct, and you will go bastards, and they will just announce a game that you forgot somehow. Like it'll be a new Punch Out, or I don't know. It could be anything, or it could be Metroid Prime 4. We're all overdue seeing that. Who knows?
Yeah, the Metroid Prime 4. The Metroid Prime 4 thing is always one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that'll never come out, but at some point it actually will come out.
But Nintendo have always been like in the Switch last few years. It has been kind of like absolutely huge, enormous title that everyone pays attention to. Slightly niche title the next month that So like this month is another Code. And then next month is like Mario versus DK. I get it that they're not too huge. Or is that March? I can't remember. Whatever. They're not huge titles, but they're also not. I don't know. I'm not worried. Last question: would you buy a Gears of War 1, 2, and 3 collection for £70?
No, they're all on Game Pass.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the other thing is that if they did them, it would be on Game Pass, wouldn't it? It's a Microsoft game, so
yeah. So, I mean, it depends what they do with this collection. If we have to take Game Pass out of the equation, I guess, but it would depend what they did to those 3 games.
Well, are we assuming they're like because Gears 1 did get remastered?
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
So are we assuming that they're all getting that sort of remastered treatment and like the bit like the Halo where they brought the multiplayer together into one huge package? And
I feel like that kind of makes sense, right? Sure. We'll save that.
I'd buy it if it weren't on Game Pass, yeah, for sure, because I love that series. But I do also think it would be weird timing because Gears 5 was ages ago now, like ages ago.
Yeah, Gears is a weird one where it does feel like it got kind of lost a bit, and it feels like it's been a while now since like it has been kind of ages, hasn't it?
I'm gonna have to look it up. I reviewed Gears 5, I think. But I'm going to have to look it up because I can't remember what year it was. 2019. Wow.
2019. Yeah.
September 2019.
5 years. We are due something new from...
We're due some Gears of War. Sorry, Gears.
Sorry, just Gears now, yeah.
Oh, that might piss me off if they released it and it was called Gears Collection.
And it would be, wouldn't it?
I think it probably would, yeah. Yeah, it probably would.
Yeah.
Stick Judgment in there just to salt the wound.
Oh yeah, definitely. You got to.
That game would have been all right if they didn't change the controls. Like the game had 3 games, and then they decided to change the controls for the 4th one, which wasn't the 4th one. So
which wasn't the 4th one. No. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it'd be cool to replay those games. It's been a fucking while for me for basically any of the Gears games, really. I don't think I played 4 or 5, so
wow.
It feels
I played that first one a lot online as well.
Yeah,
I remember being like an expert at doing the General Ram battle at the end on the train, like on Legendary or whatever it was called, the hardest difficulty, whatever it was. I remember becoming like an expert at that. It was, I played that a lot. Yeah, I mean, I would ultimately, if it brings Gears back and people start wanting a new Gears, yeah, I probably would, but. it will be on Game Pass, so it's a moot point. And that is the end of listener correspondence, so I'll play the jingle.
Chris Hyde. Listener correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde.
And there we have it. It's another slightly shorter podcast for you, but I promise you that not only are the cast of crew returning to be not just ending up with me and Lyle, but the games are coming. And in fact, I think next episode we can talk about some of the biggies.
Yeah, I think I've got at least 2 games I'd be quite happy to talk quite a lot about next week.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think I'm the same. Yeah, I think that'll be next week, next episode. So do hang in there. We just wanted to give you a podcast to, we know we were a bit slow starting, but it's been really busy, and you'll find out more probably on the next episode as to exactly what we've been up to. Other than that, it just remains to say, if you enjoyed this podcast and you watched on YouTube, you can make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button to never miss any future content. You can go to patreon.com/GodIsAGeek, where you can find access to our Discord community, where you can send these questions in, your own ones that you want to get answered. Talk to the people there. They're all lovely. I say that. No, they're all lovely. It's fine. It's Happy New Year. Make sure you like us and subscribe, like I say, and follow and all that, and all the social mediums. Has become my catchphrase, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And obviously, thank you very much to Mick, who is not with us now, and by that I mean left the podcast temporarily. I don't mean passed to the other realm. And obviously, thanks to Lyle for being here, who's still here.
Did stay here. I stayed the whole time, no matter how bad the takes.
Indeed. And obviously we will speak to you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye bye for now.